to the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Brand new week. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster back at it again. Levi Peckinpah is back in studio, hanging out with us today as well. We're live at Furniture Showcase, 5th and Main, downtown Stillwater. StillwaterFurnitureShowcase.com, or you can call 388-7177. During your extra time at home this past year, you probably started thinking about refurnishing some of those rooms in your home because you were staring at them a lot more than usual. Well, guess what? You have more options now in stock and ready for delivery at Furniture Showcase. Open until 6 p.m. today, 9:30 to 6, Monday through Saturday, and Sundays 1 to 5. Zach, how was the weekend, man?
It was good. Very entertaining. Watched a lot of softball this weekend. Probably some of the best softball I've seen in a while. And that's saying a lot because this Oklahoma State team is really good. But I didn't do much. I watched the softball games. Did a little extra credit for some classes. Played some Red Dead. Just kind of hung out.
Oh, back in the Red Dead. Nice.
Oh,
it's classic.
Dude, so
classic.
I had to go to the city on Saturday. I had to go to the city on Saturday to take a test. And on the way, me and my wife are members to the Cowboy Museum and the National Cowboy Museum Hall of Fame.
Okay, yep.
And so my dad went with me because I didn't know, they told me I couldn't take anything into the test room, nothing. And I was like, well, I have all my confirmation on my cell phone. So, I can't, I have to take my phone in. So I was going to take my phone in, have my dad follow me, and he was going to take all my stuff back out to the car. Didn't matter at all. They were like, just turn your phone off. No big deal. You can have whatever you want. So my dad went to the city for nothing. But I took him to the Cowboy Hall of Fame. We went back. And so, that's just, continued my obsession with the Wild West.
It's back in the mood, man. I love that game.
So good.
I'm telling you. It is.
My gosh.
It's all-time top 5 game for me.
Mm-hmm. I got attacked by a grizzly bear yesterday.
It's awesome. You never know.
So good.
You never know.
So good.
I spent the weekend bachelor party style, okay? Now let me know if this sounds like the things you're supposed to do with a bunch of dudes on bachelor party, okay?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Drink some beer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ate some barbecue.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fished.
Yep.
Not me, but okay.
Okay, Levi says Euro, yeah.
Well, he's
Yes,
from
sir. That's a good
That's
time.
No offense.
Yeah, it's a good time. It was a great time.
Hey, I hit the lakes with my
Played
Pawnee
some video
pole, baby.
games. They're funny. Played some video games.
Yeah.
Drank some more beer.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't text my ex.
Hey.
Big facts.
That's a successful.
That's a win.
I mean, I feel like it's a successful bachelor
That's a W.
party.
It sounds like a very PG, kid-friendly.
Yeah,
bachelor
we
party.
didn't want to wild out too much.
Probably smart.
It's one of those things where you're kind of just taking it all in and enjoying the. It was like Airbnb cabin style, all that stuff, So you're enjoying the nature and the scenery and just kicking back and enjoying it, man. It was a fun time. And then I looked through Twitter because I amazingly still had service and everything back there, and I was following all this action going on with the games and baseball and softball. And then you send me a text message that tells me, oh, by the way, Oklahoma State Athletics is now opening to full capacity. And when I saw that, I almost jumped up and just yelled out loud in pure joy and ecstasy because thank goodness is all I could say. All right? Thank goodness.
I think it's probably a little too late, though. It's kind of pointless in my mind to go ahead and do it now because they're like, for the remainder of the spring. I'm like, okay, well, there was a Bedlam softball game on Sunday, and then you have 6 baseball games. Just wait till the fall.
Yeah, when they announced it now, I was like, well, I was kind of the same way with you. Okay.
I mean, it's great.
I mean, better late than never, I guess. But to me, yeah, way past time. Way past time.
You and I were talking about it before. I don't know. I didn't know if they were going to sell out one of the baseball games. I think if you were going to, it'd be one of the Baylor games.
You have 6 home games left for baseball. 3 with Baylor, 3 with
Okay, so
New Orleans.
I don't think it's going to be a Baylor game. May 20th, the first game of the New Orleans series, is when Oklahoma State they rescheduled the ceremonial first pitch with former President George W. Bush.
There you go.
Because he was set to throw out the first pitch of the TCU series last year when it first opened. Pandemic hits, and they're like, oh, well, we're going to wait. So they've rescheduled the first pitch with George W. Bush for May 20th. if there was ever a game of those 6, it would be the day that George W. Bush shows up.
Yeah, I feel like they should be able to pack out. They should have been able to pack out O'Brien, man, for a while. I'm
If it had
telling
been
you that.
that Bedlam game would have sold out.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Look, and if there's people upset about this or crying about it that it shouldn't happen at this point still, like, keep crying, man, because we're back. We're
There
back.
aren't many.
I know, and we're back to normal around here. Like,
Yeah.
I just want you to know that if you are upset about this, your complaints are going straight out the window, okay? No one is listening or giving it any type of steam because it is back to normal, man. And I heard earlier today, okay, I'll throw this in there with all this too. Not everybody was thrilled about the timing. Let's also take a look at that too.
So good.
Because over the weekend you had Oklahoma State softball, and they lost 2 out of 3 to Oklahoma, but they got that big win the first game of the series, and that was just Oklahoma's second loss of the year. So that's a big time.
And the first time OSU's beat them in, what was it, 26 games, 24 games, something like that?
You beat the number 1 team.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of thrill about that. Kenny Gajewski's talking about, head coach Kenny Gajewski, softball team, talking about the open capacity, and everybody can come on in, and it's full, and it's good to go. And he's like, man, paraphrasing here, but, why didn't we have it before this series
Apparently
started?
they only care about baseball.
Apparently, and he actually said, apparently they only care about baseball. Now, I took 2 things from that. Number 1 is he's right in the way that why wasn't it before? Because it goes back to what I said earlier. It should have been completely open a long, long time ago. Especially with everything else we've seen, which has been great, I think, by the way, that we've seen full capacity crowds with some pro sports now in baseball, and you haven't had any issues come from that. Okay, so we're good there. We have got information that COVID doesn't really spread outside at all. We've got that. That's good to go. That's great. You have the precautions in place. People are adults, for crying out loud. They're taking care of themselves. They understand. So with all that being said, that's why it should have been a long time ago that we should have open capacity. Everybody could come on in. And so he was right about that. That this is. He didn't really say, I don't think, that this was long overdue or anything by that. He was just upset that they completely did it for what looks like baseball. And the other part, though, that I'll say about this is, he's talking about, do they care about baseball more than softball? Yes. I mean, plain and simple. Like, I'm not sugarcoat it. I mean, and you also look at the every other X factor of this, including number 1, the stadium. You've got a brand new stadium over there that you think you have the chance to potentially sell out 1 or 2 games, maybe. I know that's maybe a stretch, but they're taking into factor that not a lot of people have been able to get out completely to these games before this season with a limited capacity. So if we open it all up, everybody will just come out in droves, and we will have a full stadium. Even if it is Baylor, even if it is New Orleans, people get to see Oklahoma State baseball. Do people of a majority of Oklahoma State fans probably care more about baseball than softball? Probably so. If I were to go out there and take a poll right now, I guarantee you it would say, yes, we care about baseball more than softball. So for him to throw that out there, and I don't know if he's taking a shot directly at baseball program or the athletic directors or administration or whatever you want to call it, but yes, they do. It goes back to everything we've talked about with men's and women's sports, and in this particular case as well. Yes, people and the athletic directors and the administration right now cares more about baseball. I understand it. Look, the softball team, awesome. I've seen some of their games this year. I've seen what they've done. Beating Oklahoma is huge, and they should be able to have a full capacity crowd at every single home game. But bottom line, money drives it home. A brand new stadium, a good baseball team. They want to try to get some of this cash flow coming back in, and hopefully that sets a standard as well, and I think it will, because if we don't have, I'll say this too, by the time fall comes around, if we don't have a full football stadium, something's gone completely wrong at this point. And they've already said that's the plan. I'm fully expecting it. Yes, the timing does suck. I completely agree. And even for Oklahoma State baseball fans, like, you're going to see baseball, but it's like, all right, Baylor and Nora Roberts. we get what we get, I guess. We're not going to completely complain. But I thought that comment was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and if you look at where Mike Holder was all weekend, he was at Cowgirls. He was in the Cowgirls Stadium. He was watching softball all weekend. I'm sure baseball is happy about it because you are going to get 6 games of a potential sellout, or at least more fans. Robert did some digging yesterday There hasn't been an official sellout at an Oklahoma State sporting event since homecoming with Texas in 2018. That was the Barry Sanders
Right.
throwback uniform.
But as you know, like talked about, that's the factors that I listed are what they're hoping drive this to be a full sell.
I think if you look at baseball, and softball was close yesterday. I want to say the numbers were maybe a few hundred off. So I mean, it was close. It was as close as you can be without an official sellout. I think, so Robert had it here, official count yesterday was 663 fans. I don't know if that's, like, if that counts the people down the lines, too. They were standing by the fence, and if that counts the people out in the corral area, the deck they built outside of left field. But the official capacity is 750, and there was an official count of 663. So it was close. If you look at baseball, with the anticipation that this season has had, I get the pitching is down, but you have a $60+ million stadium, and there have been people complaining all year long that the season ticket holders and longtime season ticket holders were the only people that benefited, and I could buy a standing room only ticket for $10 or $15, but maybe, and I might be able to find a seat, maybe. I think you have a legitimate chance. Now, I'm not gonna put money on it, but I think they have a legitimate chance of selling out those 6 games, or getting as close as possible to those 6 games.
At least the first one, like
absolutely.
You talked about.
The first one, I think Baylor's pretty good, and if Oklahoma State can figure out the pitching, if they can get a little healthy, that Baylor series should be pretty good. For sure, that first game against New Orleans, that May 20th game when George Bush shows up, it'll be a sellout. That place will be packed out. They'll have it, because they said it was expandable up to like 8,000 or 9,000 or something. It'll be that. You'll have people lined up everywhere.
And look, was there a time during all this where it was unsafe to have crowds at places? Sure. I mean, but that time is long past.
Yeah.
I go back to what I said last week. At this point, with the way vaccinations are moving too, you have an opportunity if you want to do that. And with that being the case, the only real ones at risk now are those that aren't getting the vaccine.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, everybody should be allowed to go back and take their own risk and live their own lives. If they want to go to a game outside, for crying out loud, to do it. If you want to, they should be able to indoor pack NHL arenas coming up for the playoffs, man. I mean, everything should be back open. We are way behind on some of that stuff. So I think this is a great first step. I'm happy for Oklahoma State. I wish that it would have been done earlier, because I think you would have seen a pretty sizable crowd for this Bedlam series for Oklahoma State softball.
I think you could have got away with probably the first part of April. I'm not going to say April 1, but I think you probably could have got away with packing out stadiums that first part of April. And if they would have announced it, if they would have announced it Thursday of last week, you'd have had 3 sellouts.
Well, and we've seen,
because they announced it. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're good.
Sunday they announced it at like 9:45.
Yeah.
And opening pitch was at 11.
Yeah.
Like, if they'd announced it Saturday night, they probably would have had a sellout.
Look, and it'd be another thing too if we were still at this point linking major outbreaks to large crowds.
Absolutely.
We just aren't.
Yeah.
The Rangers have been open for what, 2 months now almost? Full capacity. There's been no reports of anything like that.
Pleasantly surprised, by the way.
Awesome. The Braves just did 100% this past weekend. Great. They had 70,000 at AT&T Stadium for the Canelo fight. I mean, we're moving past it, man. So I completely agree. It's way past time. I'm on board. I'm really happy for Oklahoma State. This is going to set a trend into football, because I'm like you. I can't wait to see a packed out Boone Pickens.
They will.
Yeah.
So you got Missouri State game 1. Depending on what the athletic department does with tickets. Now, if they try to, like, all right, listen, we lost a lot of money in the past year and a half. We need to recoup some money. So if you want to see Oklahoma State, Missouri State, you're going to have to pay cheapest for $90 a ticket. Like, if it's a little cheaper, I think it's possible you could see a sellout, and it's Missouri State. But it's because people are so fed up. It's finally time for football. Let's sell out a stadium. And if it happens, I don't know if you're going to see and I can't remember who it was, a Louisiana team, I think. I can't remember who it was. Oklahoma State beat them like 82-0 or some crazy number like that. You could see something like that, especially with the way the defense is trending and the way the offense is trending, and it's time to pack out a state. You very possibly could see a sellout or as close to a sellout as possible.
Hey, you sell it out, everyone's gone by halftime,
right?
It's
Yeah.
because Missouri State's down by 50.
And then someone like in Minnesota, it's like, oh hey, Oklahoma State, they're playing. He turned the game. I was like, is a pandemic still going on down there? It's like 15 people.
Nature's healing.
Yeah.
Nature's healing. When we come back on the afternoon sports drive, a big storyline out of Oklahoma State basketball. We'll tell you what that's all about. We'll get into some baseball later on, too. A lot of stories out of the National Football League to get to. All kinds of good stuff coming up here on the afternoon sports drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network after this.
Oh, screaming out at the top of my lungs, 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 tell the world that I found the one. Whoa, my baby's hotter than the golden sun, sun. You make my heart beat like a bass drum. Listen to me now. Oh, I've been touched by an angel.
The afternoon sports drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster, Monday edition, live from Furniture Showcase 5th and Main in downtown Stillwater. StillwaterFurnitureShowcase.com. They got free design services, express delivery, and financing is also available. If you're looking for new furniture, you don't have to drive to Oklahoma City, Tulsa, or Wichita and then have to wait because what you want is out of stock. Furniture Showcase has the big brands, the big selections. They're right here in Stillwater. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, Levi Pegpaw's with us as well. Big-time storyline for Oklahoma State basketball. I think, Zach, it's a little bigger because this was something you and I had already talked about.
Yeah.
We were fairly confident in, but there was a little steam picking up in terms of rumors that Avery Anderson was, if there were things he heard that he really liked about the NBA and stuff like that, he was being told he might consider potentially even playing overseas. All that stuff was being thrown out there. But he has announced that he will be returning next season. And not a huge shock to me, I know for you either. But this is something that I think Oklahoma State would have been in trouble had he not said that he was going to return. He's a guy that is coming in to a team that, as we've said multiple times, is looking to fill a giant hole that was left by Cade Cunningham. And maybe even more so in the impact he had on opposing defenses. Even when he wasn't scoring, you had a lot of attention on one guy. And occasionally that would open up some looks. But that's not going to be the case anymore. This next season, there's not going to be a lot of double teams on Avery Anderson. There's not going to be very many at all on Ice or Caleb Boone or MA unless one of them just happens to explode and they can't be stopped. But other than that, there's not going to be a lot of double teams. There's going to be a lot of straight man defense. You got to be able to find some ways to make plays happen. A guy like Avery Anderson is someone that Oklahoma State needs to bolster this roster. Now, the things he needs to work on. One, his shooting. Still needs to work on it, because he can be streaky. But we saw when he gets hot, he stayed hot last year.
Yeah.
He really did. And he showed that he took over and will take over and can take over with no Cade Cunningham. We saw that really, put into the forefront of that program in that game that he exploded last season. So that was a good sign. You hope for consistency with that next year. But again, can he do it throughout all of these games with the attention not being diverted elsewhere? Part of it, too, is probably some strength. He needs to probably get a little bit stronger, with his ability with the basketball, because I think you add that into what he does well, which is burst of speed, scoring in bunches at times, really making plays quick inside through defenses, cutting hard, that type of thing, then he's going to be set, man. I'm excited for what he's going to bring to the table this next season. Part of it is, too, with the state of Oklahoma State basketball, not 100% sure where you're going to be with this program when the season comes around. If you can keep a guy like Avery Anderson who's been there, done that, has the experience, that's good for a locker room, man. Because I'm telling you right now, if the appeal doesn't go through and there's a postseason ban, that's going to feel like a dark cloud over the locker room. It is. It's going to be like, man, we gotta get our guys motivated every single day, practice throughout, hustling, working hard, and then getting into games and doing the same thing, knowing that no matter how good we are, we're not going to play in the postseason, which has got to be, I would think, the worst feeling that you could feel in college basketball, knowing that's what gives some teams hope. We see it every single year in the NCAA tournament. These teams that we've never even heard of sometimes, right, find their way in the NCAA tournament. They make a magical run. It can happen to anybody. Knowing beforehand that you wouldn't be able to do that is something you never want to hear. So I think it's important on a bunch of levels for Avery Anderson to return. I was happy to see that kind of finally be said by him.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily surprised, because you and I have been talking about it, and I'm sure he saw, or I'm sure he heard great things from the NBA, because there are aspects of his game that are really good. He's incredibly explosive. He can get to the basket at ease, average 2 assists a game. So, I mean, he's talented enough. He can distribute the ball. He can take over a game. But there are aspects of his game that need to be worked on. Obviously, he didn't hear enough from the NBA to stick with it. But I expected him to come back. You look at the leap he took from his freshman to sophomore year, right? I mean, he averaged 4.2 points and 2.1 rebounds a game as a freshman, jumped it up to 12.2 points and 4 rebounds a game. And I think the most impressive line for me is the last 10 games of the season. That includes, back-to-back games against West Virginia. You had 2 games against Baylor within a week of each other. You played Texas in the Big 12 championship. A couple of NCAA tournament games. He averaged 16.6 points a game. I mean, absolutely remarkable. And he did that with Cade Cunningham. Now, there is going to be, I think there's going to be added focus on Avery coming up, because unless Ice picks it up and figures it out and goes back to pre-mono Ice, Avery Anderson is the guy. He exploded onto the scene with that 31-point performance against West Virginia towards the end of the regular season. That was a national, hey, Oklahoma State has a guy. He's going to be on everyone's scouting report now. And I think it's huge coming back because, like you said, let's say the NCAA is you don't have the number 1 player anymore. You're probably not going to bring us a lot of money. So
what's 1 year?
1 year. Sorry. Postseason ban. So you need a guy that's been in the program. And that's what's huge is Boynton has been able to keep his guys. Obviously they lost Fair and Flavors. Not a big loss. But you go back to previous June, when all the penalties first dropped, you got everyone to come back. Now, obviously, you lost Yornay, but he didn't do much at SMU. You brought Cade Cunningham back. You brought Isaac Likely back. You brought the Boone twins back. You brought Avery Anderson back. You brought Bryce Williams back that, he committed and transferred in, and he's like, man, I came here to play and win ball games from Ole Miss, and y'all aren't going to be in the postseason. You got him to come back, brought M.A. to come back. It's huge. So the fact that this is still looming and you were able to bring Avery back for another year is huge. I don't know if I expect him to have a good enough junior season for him to declare next year. I guess it's possible. But if you're able to keep him for a senior season, you're able to keep the Boone twins together. You look at M.A. M.A. will be a junior. Rondell will be a junior. You look at these guys you're bringing in. If there is a postseason ban, you got 1 year of a build, and then you look pretty set. Plus, you got to bring in other talent, and that's what's interesting. I'm really, really curious to see what happens this week. Did you see the tweet that Mike Boynton sent out earlier today? So this coming Saturday, I think it's Saturday, is the official induction of the Naismith Hall of Fame. And so, obviously, Eddie Sutton, this was his 7th attempt. They inducted him last year. Pandemic happens. You can't have the ceremony. It's going to be this week. So Mike Boynton tweets out this morning, still humbled to have been in his presence. It was a tweet that Larry Reese had sent of Larry Reese, Eddie Sutton, Mike Boynton, and Sean Sutton. Larry says, it's Eddie Sutton week. 4 years ago today, 3 Cowboy head coaches and some guy who's all talk. And so Boynton retweeted that said, still humbled to have been in his presence. What a man. I look forward to celebrating a long overdue recognition. That won't be the only great thing to happen to OSU men's basketball this week. Eyeball emoji. So, are we talking about a commitment because you still have spots to fill? Are we talking about maybe the NCAA has leaked, hey, maybe you're not going to get a postseason ban. Maybe they know something there. Like, if you go down the list of things that Mike Boynton could announce, I mean, it's a short list of great things. As he says, the only great thing to happen to OSU men's basketball this week.
Yeah, things of great interest, no doubt. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think that, first of all, going back to Avery real quick, yes, he was never going to hear enough from the NBA,
No,
I thought,
not
this
this
year. It makes too much sense for his development to come back another season. So
100%.
there's that. Would I be naive to believe if the NCAA said the appeal's not going through that everybody would stay on the roster? Yeah,
No,
I don't think
you'll see
that.
transfers.
I think we would see multiple guys be like, can't do it. And I would understand him for it. I really would. Would Avery be on that list? I mean, I feel like he's still in a good enough spot where, like you said, he's the number one guy. Are you going to get that option anywhere else? Certainly better, but I'm like you. I think that this is – I'm hoping that's good news for what Mike Boynton said, but it's a good get. And you look at the squad overall for what they need coming into this next year, and we can't be expressing that too little, that what Avery Anderson means in terms of a solid foundation, right? Because you had that backbone to lean on last year. You just did. Whether it was necessarily a good thing to always do, it can be up for debate because you don't want to get into that rut and have to do that all the time. But leaning on a guy like Cade Cunningham for production, you get a guy like Avery Anderson that we talked about. He can lay that. He's been there. He can help everyone through some of this stuff. I think his role is a lot bigger than just scoring and passing and all that stuff too. So it's going to be big time to see what he does when he comes back this season. Levi, I'll bring you in here. What do you think about Avery coming back?
I kind of figured it was inevitable. Happy to see him back, though, because I think out of everybody on this team, he has the most potential. I hate to see that because I am one of the biggest Isaac Likely supporters, but I think after last season, he's kind of lost what he is as a player. You would want pre-mono ice, but that's something I think that we're too far gone from. I think that's something that you are pretty much looking for lost hope at that point. It's for Ice, he needs to find himself. Avery Anderson right now, he's the most consistent player that has been on the squad. He's the most consistent guy as he was able to finally find himself as a player and find out what he can do and what he needs to improve on since he went to go test out and see everything from scouts. So I think he will be he's the guy on the team right now because unless Ice can figure out who he is, then he's just a guy right now that's trying to figure everything out. Hopefully with some of these new guys, maybe they help light a spark under him, and then you see him step back up to be somewhat of a decent player because he was renovating his game with Cade Cunningham around him, and then eventually something just didn't click anymore. But I think Avery, for now, being your star guy is the way you have to go. Maybe eventually you have some of these other guys step back up to be some big pieces, but Avery is the guy. Even if something were to go weird with the NCAA hearings, the way Avery Anderson has been able to progress as a player has been under Mike Boynton. And I wouldn't expect, if anybody left, it would not be Avery Anderson. So I think he's the guy that will be the centerpiece for Mike Boynton moving forward.
Here's my thing about Ice. I don't know if you are going to get, like, you are going to get pre-mono Ice.
That's not going to happen.
But I do think you are going to get solid play out of him because you look at what he did to start the year. I mean, he went into that Kansas game before he got injured, and he was averaging 12 points a game. I mean, he dropped 22 against West Virginia, 17 against Tech, 10 against Kansas, but he had 6 assists. So, I mean, I don't think you're going to get pre-mono Ice because he was scoring 20 points a game and he was just unstoppable.
That guy.
But I think you could get talented Ice. I mean, if you get him the way he started the 2020 season, I'll take that every day because he was bringing in, 4 to 10 rebounds a game, 3 to 7 assists, and upward 10 to 20 points a game. I mean, that's pretty damn good.
Pre-mono Ice is a guy built in a different system, and the way that he was the guy and that you were going a lot more through him and you had some other more reliable guys around him. This is more of a free-for-all type of style where it's, again, you're relying on more of guards instead of that big build that he has to where he can back it down a little bit more. He does like to go to that, but it's more relying on a lot of guys with fast speed, high pace. They're small, but they're scrappy on the defensive side, and for some reason during how this whole thing laid out, just something was not clicking anymore this past season. Yes, Cade might have been part of it, but Ice just seemed to have lost his step. You can put anything towards injuries, but maybe there's also part of attitude that something just didn't click for Ice this past season. I think the guy you want, and I still want Mono Ice to somehow come back, but I think that's a far-fetched thing. I think that's something that's in the past, but because I think Ice is going to be last season most likely. This is where he can step up and be a really good player, because I think he's still a good player. No doubt about it. It's just, can he fully click in the system? It's mainly mental connection. If he can get the mental connection upstairs to keep working and keep the grind going, Ice is going to be a good player for the squad. It's just, is he there or not?
Well, and I will say this before we take a break. I don't think you're going to see – I'm with you. I don't think you're going to see that bully ball style. Now, if Ice is healthy, then I think Boynton will let Ice do what he wants, because I think you're not going to have the talent of Cade Cunningham. You're not going to have a guy like Cade Cunningham next year. Avery Anderson isn't going to take a leap and all of a sudden replace Cade. No one is going to replace Cade Cunningham, because they're not bringing in a number one overall player. But I still think that's what you're going to see, though. You're going to see that small ball style, running and gunning. And if they can get Ice healthy, I think that was mainly it for him, was just health, and health affected his mentality, because when he came back, there were times where it was almost like you saw that old Ice and he'd drive into the paint, and then he'd realize where he was, and he's like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. And he would immediately turn around or dish the ball off when he had, maybe not a clear path to the bucket, but he could have got there easily with a Euro step, and he was just like, oh, I can't do this. And he'd dribble out and he'd pass away, and that was the last time he touched the ball in that possession. Yeah. So I think if you get healthy Ice, then I think Boynton will let him do that running and gunning and get to the hole. But I see a lot of people talking about, well, man, I don't know why we're trying to bring in a talented point guard that averaged 14 points a game. Why are we doing that? We don't need another short guard. We need a 7-foot. You think that if Boynton wanted to go out and get a 6'10" to 7-foot, 260-pound big man, that he couldn't do it? They brought in 2 forwards, and those are going to be the biggest guys they bring in. I would be. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, but I would be genuinely shocked if they bring in some ginormo, because that's not the style of ball. That's not the style of play they have anymore. Yeah. That's not it. They're the small. You're looking at 6'7", 6'8", 220, 225 pounds. Like, that's the biggest you're going to get, because
it's not like you need a massive, body to be completely successful down low in the Big 12. You just need a guy that's going to be consistent.
I mean, it helps, but you're not.
Here's the thing.
I feel like you would have already had it.
Yeah, well, I don't think you need.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I think to a certain point you need it. Because if you look at the upper echelon of last year, we were sitting in the middle at number 5. If you look at the top, all those guys had a dominant, or if not dominant, somewhat decent big men that could take them further. For us, we're trying to go a different style, and that's been kind of like counterculture, and that's how we've been able to, I guess you could say, offset or stunt what they've been doing. But there's a limit for us at some points, because we can't be able to body some of those bigger guys, and they're able to get more rebounds and kind of offset us. We've seen that at several points.
I agree, and that's the thing, though. If they were gonna land a big man, they would have done it.
Oh yeah,
they would have done it last year. They would have done it by now. Like, the size you have on the team, like running and gunning small ball. Like, that's what you're going to get.
That's what I'm saying with last year, is that was the style they were going after. Was, we're going to be a really quick team. We're going to score a lot of buckets in transition. And if you have that ability to outshoot teams, that's where you don't necessarily need that. Yeah. But we have seen at times, sure, that's been their weakness. I have said, though, you look at what Caleb Boone brings to the table in MA. Those are 2 guys that, while they might be outsized at times, you would think their athleticism would be able to trump that. And I think it will at some point here. That's the thing, though, is when.
I'm really excited to see the progression at MA.
What progression will there be? Yeah. Will we see it immediately? Is there going to be another season where we're like begging him to do more? I don't know. I think that's what you're missing more of. Would it be great to land a 7-footer? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, would it have been awesome if when we talked about Walker Kessler would come in? Sure, but I'm not sure that, like you said, that's the style they're going after, whether they should be or not.
Question: will there be an eventual point where we get tired of asking when, and we finally say, yes, this style is very great, we've been liking it, but we need to adjust to the style that some of these other schools have been going with, where they be going with these 6'11", 7-footers. We need to start adjusting towards that to go with this, because we might be trying to do this with Caleb Boone for the next couple of years, and we're just saying this isn't it. So is there going to be an eventual point where we might try to switch it up and start going with maybe a more traditional big man, or do you think it's always going to be where we're trying to go with this fast-paced type of style?
I think it would depend on the prospect. Like, I think Boynton, I think they go after those guys, but it's kind of like Mike Gundy. If there's not, if there's not a huge amount of interest and they're just wasting their time, then they're like, we're not going to worry about it. Like if you had a number, like a top 100 center that was like, I want to play at Oklahoma State, I grew up an OSU fan, I want to play there, then you would. But I think it's time to just accept it. Like if they land a big man, they'll land a big man. But this is the style of play that you just need to accept. And you go back to last year, yeah, there were some big men that really dominated the paint, and they really struggled down low. But if you look at the guard play, that struggled. They couldn't, if they were able to hit threes, if Bryce Williams did what he was brought in to do, if Aaron Flavors was brought in to do what he could do, and you were able to hit baskets from the outside, you don't need to rely on that big man. You can outshoot someone.
Well, and
that's the style.
As you both know, the quote-unquote traditional big man is on its way out.
Absolutely.
Anyway. And there wasn't a ton of those I would put in traditional style in the Big 12. There were just some that were, quite a few at times that were, why were they better than Oklahoma State's? Well, a lot of the time they were more physical. They went after rebounds, and sure, size has to do with some of that, but with the athleticism that I talked about with those two guys, that's where it got frustrating because you're like, man, I know that you may be a little bit shorter than some of these dudes out here, but Caleb or M.A. or whoever's down there, man, come on. Put a body on somebody, get out there, get athletic, get a couple boards, get to the hoop. I mean, there were times where you just got super frustrated because there is so much talent, I think, sitting right there in some of those guys, and yeah, I'm expecting to see a leap. I really am, especially from M.A. And if he doesn't, then maybe it's like what Levi's saying. At some point, you're going to have to be forced to look a lot harder at that position and see what you can do. Because I do believe if Mike Boynton had it his way, we're just going to outshoot everybody.
Because
I mean, I know that was the goal last. Yeah, that was probably the goal coming into last year. But eventually, that doesn't work for every team. We know that. So good news there overall for Avery Anderson coming back for Oklahoma State to solidify that position. We come back here on the afternoon sports drive. We'll take a look at Oklahoma State baseball. They took 2 out of 3 over the weekend against the Kansas Jayhawks and look ahead to tomorrow's matchup against the Oklahoma Sooners. Coming up, afternoon sports drive.
And I don't know how we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the ground, wondering why it's so cold. How we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the ground, wondering why it's so cold. Why you so icy cold? My tears can't drip. Sitting awake alone, tattoos I miss. If I was to call your phone, I know you'd click.
The afternoon sports drive, it's hour number 2. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, and Levi Peckinpah with you here on this Monday afternoon. Hope everyone's having a great Monday so far. We're live at Stillwater Furniture Showcase, 5th and Main, downtown Stillwater, stillwaterfurnituresshowcase.com. Shop local when you need a new mattress. Furniture Showcase has all the brands that the big city stores have in stock and ready for delivery. Big names like Tempur-Pedic, Ashley, Sealy, Serta, and more mattress brands for any size bed. For the comfort type you like to sleep on, it's here, and it's available at Furniture Showcase. To start off the second hour, we're going to get into some buy or sell.
Are you buying?
I'd buy that for $1.
Or are you selling?
You pick up the phone and you sell, sell, sell.
This is Buy or Sell on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Make money, money, make money.
Buy or sell, afternoon sports drive, Triple Play Sports Radio. All right, number 1 for me, Zach.
Yeah.
Going back to Avery.
Love it.
Now that we know he's coming back, 100% this next season for now, buy or sell. I'm thinking giving you another over-under. How about that to start
okay
the
with
week?
that.
Another over-under. Levi, I'll bring you in on this one too. Over-under that Avery has 10 games with 20-plus points next season.
Let's see here. 20-plus, he did it 1, 2, 3 times last year towards the end of the year. I think
You also
I
got
think
that in
he
a lot of
will be-
non-conference games.
I think he will be better this year. Like Levi said, you go back to the start of this year, you're looking at what they have: 4 non-conference games. You add at least 9 or 10 non-conference games. 10 or more. I would probably I'd probably take 10 or more. I would probably do that. Because you look at it and it's I would think 10 to 15 non-conference games, depending on if there's a postseason ban or not. You could see more UT Arlingtons, Texas Southerns, more of your scrub non-conference games. So I would probably take that, because you look at how explosive he is. I mean, and he was close too. He had 17 against Tech in the first matchup.
Yeah.
He had 16 against Texas, 16 against Tech again, 17 against West Virginia, 16 against Oregon State. So I would probably take that, because something that we always go back to, he's going to have a hell of a lot more touches.
Exactly.
Without Cade. So, yeah, I would probably take the over. I'm not saying that he's going to have like 15 or 16, 20-point games. I think that'd be pretty crazy. But I think 10 or more is certainly doable, especially with an expanded non-conference.
I think it's an easy buy for me, especially with you're going to be getting. I'm about 10 non-conference games that'll be added to the schedule. I think it'll be pretty easy for a guy like Avery, because, like Zach was saying, with how many times he was already in double digits, and now you're going to add on
close.
That there's a lot more touches now with Cade not on the team anymore. I think a good chunk of those are going to go to Avery Anderson, and we've showed that towards the back half of the season, he was able to convert a lot of those touches that he already had. So add some more on there. I think it should be an easy, and honestly, I could see upwards of maybe 15. I don't think that's out of the realm at all, because there are a lot of touches that are now available for anybody to take. I hope that there's some other guards that will be able to step up, because there's a lot of people in the wings that are looking for opportunities, and now with a Cade Cunningham-sized hole, there will be a lot of opportunities to take them. I think Avery will take the most opportunities, and I will easy buy.
Yeah, depending on if Bryce comes back, I think you'll see Avery's assist numbers go up as well, because he'll have to be that facilitator. He kind of was that this year, but he'll need to be the assist facilitator. Honestly, I think it'll depend on whether or not they fill the last role or two if they try to bring in another guard, because they have, like, that's the thing, is like, if they bring in another guard, it's not because another guard is going to leave. Like, you still need to replace a guard. You haven't brought in a guard to replace Farron, and you haven't brought in a guard to replace Cade Cunningham.
The thing is
absolutely a guard is wild. He's not a forward, but they still need to bring in a guard. So, like, if they, let's knock on wood here, hypothetical, they bring in Severe Wheeler out of Georgia. He averages 14 points and 7.4 assists a game. Like, you bring in a guy like that, then I think that'll limit touches to Avery. But not like it did with Cade, but still limit.
But we're also forgetting that you still have a couple other guards on the roster. One that was injured for the majority, if not all, of the season, in Chris Harris, who was looking to take a step up after previous injury, so he's going to get some opportunities. Donovan Williams is a guy you were also looking to see if he could potentially step up. So you already have 2 more guards on the roster that didn't get any opportunities last season. So there's already potential for there. And if you do add a guy like Williams on there, then he's definitely going to be getting some touches. But I think because of what Avery's already been able to do, I think he's got the authority to say, I can get some of these touches, because I already showed, compared to some of you guys who haven't had your opportunities, I understand that you deserve to get some, but I've shown that I could convert in my opportunities.
Yeah, I think Avery's going to command the most looks, certainly, and he should. And you look at the guys that are going to be available to add to those point totals. I'm expecting a really solid lead from Rondell Walker, right? We talk about him a lot. I'm excited as well to see what he does this upcoming year, scoring the basketball. You hope that Ice gets back to it. If Bryce is here, same for him. Like Levi said, Chris Harris. There's a lot of guys we know that can put the ball in the hoop on this team. But with 10 games, and like you guys mentioned, the extra non-con, that certainly pushed me over the 10, I believe, as well. So I would take that over. Do I expect him by the time the season's over to be averaging 20 plus a game? Probably not. I don't expect him to be like that Kate Cunningham style. I mean, that's a lot to do over a season's time, but there are going to be plenty of games where he is certainly, your leading scorer. And I have to think too, though, with that being said, I hope it's not in some games where he's the only one that can get it going, or he's having to do so much late, or it's garbage time, or anything like that. I think that hopefully with these 20-plus point games that we're talking about coming up here, they're in competitive matches from start to finish, and he's your guy. And I just think is there pressure on Avery? Absolutely, but there's also a lot of expectations for him to be really, really good. And it is a different vibe to this team without an elite superstar player like you had with Cade Cunningham. So big shoes, no doubt, but he was a big part of what they did last year, so it's not like this is just a brand new stage for him.
Yeah, I think you'll have stretches. Like, you look at the last 10 games, and he averaged 16, almost 17 points a game in the last 10 games. I think you'll certainly see stretches next year where he'll have a 5 to 7 game stretch where he's averaging 20 points and, 5 or 6 assists and stuff like that. So I think it's certainly doable, yeah. So I'm going with baseball. I got to find it. I've been texting folk. So since the announcement came out yesterday, because it's apparent the athletic department cares more about baseball, buy or sell that OSU baseball has 2 or more sellouts in the remaining 6 games of the season. Because I think it's certainly doable with the way people have wanted and been denied the opportunity to go to a game because you can only have 900, 1,000 people in the stands.
What did you say the first game with George W. Bush again?
It'd be the first New Orleans series.
Okay, New Orleans.
So the 20th, I think. But you look at that, you have 3 games against a pretty solid Baylor team, and you got 3 games against New Orleans, one with former President George W. Bush on it.
Easy buy.
I'll buy then for 2 because give me that one. I think there were for sure. And then probably the first one at least against Baylor. I think there's potential for 1 or 2 in that series just because it's a weekend series. And also you have plenty of people that haven't got a chance to see the brand new stadium. I mean, that's just if it were the same thing, right? If there were Alley P or whatever, if it were just an older field, the same thing that people have seen over and over, then probably not even with it being a COVID world before this and you had limited number of seats available and all this, still probably not. But the fact that you have not been able to do this for the entire season, people are back out and about like they were before all of this anyways, and then you add on top of it a brand new state-of-the-art, voted #1 stadium in college baseball that is just sitting there in some of these fans' backyards. Absolutely, man. I'll buy 2.
Yeah, same. And you look at it, I think that the pandemic has shown that there's a considerable amount of spiteful people that have come out of the woodworks. You say I can't do this? All right, I'll prove you wrong. So they could play middle of the road junior college team, and Oklahoma State fans would be like, "You've kept me out long enough. This is going to be a crap game, but I'm showing up." Kind of we're finally get to do this. I'm not wearing a mask at all. We're packing this thing out 9,000 plus standing room only. I could easily see, I'm not saying that all 6 games could be sellouts, but I think it's possible you could see 2 or more sellouts, and I think it's very possible that you could have close to 6 sellouts. I think you could easily see 6,000 plus at all these games.
Levi, you buying 2 plus?
Easy buy. It's an easy buy. For one thing, the one with the former president of the United States easily going to sell out. And then the first one in the Baylor series.
Boy dodged 2 shoes.
Easy one for the Baylor series for the start. Because, again, like you guys are saying, we haven't been able to have full capacity. We've been locked out of there for so long, and so many people haven't been able to because of various time things or whatever. And so now the gates are open, everybody's be like, wait, so we can all go in now? Yeah, you all can go in. Not even just standing room. You can go in and actually sit down. That means everybody will flock to go buy themselves a ticket because the zip ties are finally off the seats. So expect it to be fully packed, and maybe expect me to be one of those seats.
And that's the big one there. Is no more, all right, well, we've got our several hundred season ticket holders that have bought tickets, And you can, if you wanted to spend $15, you could buy a standing room only ticket, and then maybe if there's some seats available, you might be able to sneak your way into that section. All bets are off. Like, you can set where, if you can get a ticket for it, they'll be there. That place is going to be packed out.
And Levi can attest to this because we were there, man. It drove me crazy to see. Yeah, the tie game. Yeah, there you go. It drove me crazy to see the zip-tied seats, man. I mean, it was just, they're sitting there and people aren't able to get a chance to get in. So, like I said, this is great news. I'm all for it. I can't wait to see it packed out. And yeah, thanks for bringing up the tie game. Man. You know what? There's going to become a point where I'm just going to act like I didn't hear that. I was going to have to.
You just got to quit bringing it up.
Well, I bring up Oklahoma State baseball?
No, the game you and Levi went to.
That's not even that.
Tie game.
I guarantee you that if I had said Oklahoma State baseball again, you would have been like, "Hey, remember that one time Grand Canyon tied?"
No.
Oh yeah.
No.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna just have to act like I didn't hear at all. Levi's got his hand on the mute button over there. So I'm going to move over into a different topic here for my second buy or sell. And it's not necessarily a buy or sell, but it can be in this way. So Aaron Rodgers, we all know he's still a hot topic. Where's he going to go? Is he going to be a Packer? Let's give our perfect fits where we want him to go. It doesn't have to be rumors or where he should. It's where we see him as a perfect fit, and we'll decide if we buy your guys' fits. Levi, you go first.
Ooh. I actually need a second for this. I've got like several spots. Zach can go first on this one. I need half a second. I don't know why.
Okay.
Just my
Zach,
brain
I'll
like
repeat the question. Around. Okay, so we're gonna give our perfect fits for Aaron Rodgers to land. And I'll buy or sell your perfect fit. It can be yours personally. It doesn't have to be one you've heard or anything like that. Just where you think he would fit best. And it could be with the Packers too.
I at this point I would find it really hard to see him remain with the Packers. Like, I think the only way they would do that is if they actually got rid of the GM. But like you and I talked about last week, I think for not even other teams, but just the Packers themselves, if they were to do that, I think it would set a really bad precedent with Aaron Rodgers. Well, you got rid of the GM. I'm not happy about this, so I need you to fix that too, and fix this too, fix that too. So I won't say Green Bay, but I've kind of been looking around. I think Denver is probably the most obvious choice. And then talking to Marshall, looking around, and I've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter, I think you're looking at Denver and possibly New Orleans. Now, I don't know if he goes to New Orleans, but I think that obviously Aaron Rodgers gives you a much better chance of doing anything other than throwing interceptions than Jameis Winston.
Okay. So you're looking towards the Saints. Interesting. Okay, Levi, now I've given you your adequate time. What you got for me?
I just with thinking about everything and how all of this has worked out, I gotta go with just staying in Green Bay. I think it makes too much sense because I think for the majority of the teams, you're going to have to give up. At some point, it might even be way too much for Aaron Rodgers because we've seen in the past with Green Bay, with quarterbacks entering their 16th season, what happens after they get traded, where you might have a good year and then you decline like Brett Favre did, and you hit the slope. So I think the best situation for Aaron Rodgers is both of these guys, the GM that has been compared to the legendary GM over in for the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, Jerry Krause.
Jerry Krause. I think you need to get those two in a room. You lock the doors. Either one of them comes out alive or they got a new contract extension for Aaron Rodgers.
Also, I think if you're Aaron Rodgers, and I talked about this last week, the best thing that Aaron Rodgers could do if he really wants to stick it to the Packers, because Levi's right, the Packers would have to give up an asinine amount to move him, and vice versa. If you're Aaron Rodgers, just retire.
Yeah.
Just quit.
Man.
Because then you retire, the Packers don't get anything other than the money that they don't have to pay you anymore. And then you come out of retirement.
Yeah.
Because I think he's going to host Jeopardy coming up here in a couple weeks just to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you just retire. Screw the Packers, retire, and then just sign with a team in a couple weeks.
I could see him somewhat doing something like that out of spite. I mean, so with your guys' choices, I'll sell as much as I love the idea. I will sell.
Fun, right?
I will sell New Orleans because that'd be amazing.
That's cap hell and a half.
Brees. Oh man, yeah, the franchise would go under. But Drew Brees gone. Bring Aaron Rodgers back in. No more Saints. And I'll go about halfway buying the Packers, getting him back. Like Levi said, my perfect fit is still for me. If I could get him anywhere right now, the New York Giants. I would put him on New York in a heartbeat.
I always forget about New York.
And just watch that team succeed. And we do forget about them. But what they did in this offseason, the additions they've made,
absolutely.
I think they have a chance. They just need a quarterback to be pretty successful, even though they are the Giants. You got Saquon coming back. You put Aaron Rodgers in that offense, he would dominate immediately. Sure, he may fall off due to age in a year or two, but still, give him a chance to go in there and win a Super Bowl with New York. They forget who Daniel Jones is and never utter his name one more time. I just think that would be my perfect fit. I get the Broncos. I do, and there's rumors, obviously, that he'll reportedly be pursued by them pretty hard if made available by Green Bay. But I would take, at this point even, I would take New York's weapons, especially a receiver, over the Broncos because I think they have some talent there. Obviously, I love Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, I hope gets a real chance coming up here, and Tim Patrick showed some promise last year, but Kenny Galladay, come on now. You throw him in as a wide receiver one with Sterling Shepard, with Evan Ingram at tight end. I just think that, and guys you got in the draft, I would be too excited to see that with Giants. So that's my perfect fit.
Well, I think Daniel Jones would make a hell of a backup.
He'd be he'd be one you wouldn't necessarily, I guess, shed a ton of tears if he had to come in.
Well, and that's the thing is he's not a great quarterback. I don't think Daniel Jones is going to win any Super Bowls anytime soon, but he's shown that he's a serviceable quarterback. He can come in and just do enough to not completely get obliterated, especially if you don't have the pressure. I'd be okay with him going to New York, and I'm not even a Giants fan.
He's serviceable. Daniel Jones is serviceable at being just enough mediocre to not be terrible.
Yeah, and that's and I think if he's a backup and there's no pressure that he has to go out there and win games, we've seen it a lot. Guys, they're just backup quarterbacks. And if there's no pressure, they can play. They're not going to play excellent, but they can just do enough to not lose a game. And I think that's Daniel Jones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's about right. Also, with whatever happens to Aaron Rodgers, does it happen before June 2nd, whenever they could split up the cap for multiple years, or does it happen after?
I think if you're Aaron Rodgers and you don't want to go back to Green Bay, I'm still sticking with it. I think Aaron Rodgers could do whatever, like anything he could do to mess with Green Bay if they're not willing to meet his demands.
Yeah, the Broncos or any other team wouldn't do anything till June 1st, so it's not like you're in an extreme hurry. Like that's kind of lost in translation because the Aaron Rodgers stuff is so big right now. It's like, oh, well, there's teams jumping to do it right now. No, not really. I mean, they don't have to do anything till June 1st, which is still, I know it's under a month away now, believe it or not. But I know it's crazy. But they still have some time, so we'll see. But yeah, once June 1st hits, get ready. We're gonna have more of the rumors and storylines, unless maybe Levi, like you were talking about, we haven't heard the Packers be like, "Hey, we got a deal done," and everyone's like, "Okay, great, Russell Wilson 2.0 over here."
That's what happens with all these fights, man. That's what happens. Yeah. There's all this bicker in the media, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, 3-year extension." Now, please stop talking.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention. I know we don't have time. We'll probably get to it tomorrow, later in the week, but the whole. Stuff that went down with Adam Schefter this past week, basically being like, "Oh, I was never really told this. I just kind of put this out." I mean, come on, man, come on. We're gonna get to that later on. Zach, second buy or sell, what you got for us?
So it's a week away, more than a week away.
Okay.
But buy or sell, Gold W fires a strike in his ceremonial because he's going from the rubber.
Oh yeah,
like he's top of the mound on the rubber, throws a strike.
I remember when he did it after 9/11.
Yeah.
With the Rangers.
That was impressive.
I mean, it was.
I still get goosebumps listening to that story.
Just the moment was incredible, right? It was kind of like a big uniter of the whole country, right? I'm not even sure if the country, what it would ever take for them to feel like that again. I mean, it feels like
would take that.
It feels like that was so foreign, or so foreign now compared to where we are now.
Yeah.
But yeah, he
20 years.
That's insane. That's insane.
God, that's
he zipped one in there.
Yeah, he did.
How old is he? I wonder how old he is now.
Now he's not. I'm not saying that. So I'll look it up. You don't have to buy speed or velocity.
Just a strike.
Yeah. Just get it over the plate in the zone.
All right.
He is 74.
Oh, he's got it. He's got it.
And he still looks like he's in pretty decent shape.
He's going to do it. It might even have a little bit of movement. He might
Goes
go,
up there and throws a knuckleball.
just yeah, a little knuckleball, a little slider, cuts through the zone. Yeah, something that a lefty would swing at.
And I'll make one up later. Like, does he wear a OSU jersey out there, an OSU shirt, or an OSU hat? Because
Yeah.
he for sure wears a hat.
Oh, big time, yeah.
Absolutely wears a hat.
Yeah, he's gonna get over.
And then
the plate.
does he stay for more than 3 or 4 innings? Because he's going to be up in one of the suites. You know, does he stick out for the rest of the game?
Look, the pressure's on because 50 Cent obviously set the bar for how terrible, and then Fauci tried his best to be pretty terrible as well when he did. That was really bad.
Yeah.
So he knows. Okay, as long as I don't do, even if I bounce it once, I can't be in that category.
And I don't think he'll bounce it. I think he'll get it in there.
Oh, George W. with the strike. It's happening.
Have you ever seen the Will Ferrell's HBO special where he does George Bush on stage?
I think I have seen that.
It is one
Sounds
of the
amazing.
funniest things I have ever seen in my entire
love
life.
Will Ferrell.
It's HBO Will Ferrell. He did HBO special where he did theater as George Bush. He was on SNL as Bush for a little bit. It's one of the funniest things you'll ever watch. It's so good.
Oh goodness, the George W. Bush impression was phenomenal. Oh goodness,
Yeah, it's 2 hours of pure hilarity.
Oh yeah, you can't go wrong with some Will Ferrell. Oh yeah, it's gonna be a buy. Give me like a 60-mile-an-hour fastball, just like slight right of the box.
60.
Throws his elbow out.
He's up there just like
he just
gassing it.
singing Hummers.
slings it.
Goodness.
Wow.
But no, I expect a strike.
He developed a submarine pitch.
Oh, he's just working for this moment.
Doesn't even throw.
Can
over.
change speed.
Just throws a hammer.
location.
The Secret Service is going to release a video of him working out and slinging chains and
Secret Service
Throwing-
hype video.
throwing medicine balls and stuff.
Preparing for
I
this
think
moment.
I think that's. I mean, obviously, seeing a former president is going to be really cool.
Dude, he came. Okay, get this.
But it'd be really cool just to see like the Secret Service because as long as you're not impeached, you get Secret Service for life.
Hey.
And so
Yeah.
to see the Secret Service there and the protection and the limo roll up, that'd be cool.
He visited my hometown
Cool.
of Aurora, Missouri.
That's kind of random.
7,500
Okay.
people max.
Did you open up like a military factory, make an airplane?
No,
parts
it
or
was
something?
a dog food
McDonald's?
factory.
The McDonald's.
It was dog food, even better. He went up and he was like,
There's like 6 dog food plants in Missouri, isn't there? There's like so
oh,
many
all
up
over
and
the
down
place.
44.
Yeah. He's
Oh
like,
my God.
he's like, hey, more jobs. Everyone's like, yeah,
Dog food.
yeah. They loved it. This is a booming town, Aurora, Missouri. Let's go. It was awesome. Coming up next on the afternoon sports drive, in the National Football League right now, while everything, we're always excited for it to get back started and everything, but there's kind of a war going on with the NFL and the NFLPA. Find out what that's all about coming up next, afternoon sports drive.
Whoa. Staring as I go, I gave until my soul hurt, and never told them so. They're watching as I fall.
Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, Levi Peckinpah. We're live at Stillwater Furniture Showcase. You can check them out at StillwaterFurnitureShowcase.com. 5th and Main in downtown Stillwater, or call 388-7177. And no waiting necessary on the furniture or mattresses you want, because Furniture Showcase has a store full of mattresses and furniture for any room in stock and ready to deliver to your home anywhere north central Oklahoma.
Half my house is from Furniture Showcase.
And Zach, as you can see, plenty of options.
Oh, there is.
Plenty.
If you're not careful, if you're coming in, you're like, all right, I got to get a new couch. I got to get a new mattress. Whatever it is, you're like, I got to get it. So I'm going to come in, and I'm going to you'll forget what you're doing, and you'll be here for like 4.5 hours.
And you'll leave with an entertainment center and an area road.
You'll drop several $1,000s replacing your entire house.
Yeah.
And then it's such a fun place.
Yeah.
They got rugs. Look at I love sitting back here because you get to sit next to all the rugs.
Yeah, man. A lot of really awesome designs with these. So make sure you come
I like
check
rugs.
them out. Yeah.
Rugs are my jam.
I can get with some rugs, man. So let's take a look at the NFL and the NFLPA battle going on here. because you've kind of got a Cold War going on. It's pretty crazy, but you do being waged, and you don't. I feel like with what Major League Baseball did last year, sometimes things like this between players' unions and leagues kind of get swept under the rug because of how bad it was with everything, given the circumstances of Major League Baseball last year. Well, now you're kind of dealing with the situation with the NFL and their Players Association, and I thought that Jason Lockenfora, who's a writer for CBS Sports, covers the NFL, had a great piece basically talking about how the rookies right now are the ones caught in a really bad place here with everything going on. Because we've hit on before how teams have come out, and initially they tried to blame COVID for the reasons they wouldn't attend voluntary workouts. Remember, we talked about that. We all knew immediately that was a bunch of BS. And we said that, you know what, look, it's fine if they want to do that. You know, why? Because it was collectively bargained. It was part of it. If they don't want to show up for voluntary workouts, fine. That's their right. They negotiated that, and they pounced on the opportunity that COVID provided them. They said, let's use this as an excuse, even though we all knew it wasn't the case. They were just basically, they got a taste of it last year. They came back, and they did their thing and had a successful, complete season. And it's fine, but I'm curious if we will eventually see a drop-off in performances years down the road. Will it take time to catch up to them? Possibly. But coming off last year, we saw record scoring. So it seems like the league is still in a pretty good place, even with that happening. But you've got all the players joining together, or at least attempting to. We saw that Tom Brady apparently gave a big speech. You know, we got to be united, and we got to fight for this and this and this. And they all want to get there, and that's fine. But now you're wanting these rookies to come in and unite as one too, right? You want to tell these rookies, if you're the players, hey, you guys are now with us, join our side. And to me, that isn't right, because these players are, to me, now in a really unbelievably tough spot. Not utilizing voluntary workouts for rookies, that's not good. You know, for veterans that have done it over and over and that don't necessarily need reps and these voluntary workouts and these OTAs to be good, that's one thing. But rookies that need to go through these camps, that need these reps, that need to get in the weight room with these guys, that need all this stuff, it does nothing positive for them to join in on what these veteran players are saying. So if you're a player right now, if you're a rookie, you're basically saying, okay, on one hand, I could make the veterans and my teammates happy, right? If they're all joining together on this, and I could really get in with them and gain some respect right off the bat. But we have to think about this. They're already multimillionaires. You know, that they don't care, and maybe I can go in there and make them happy. Or do I make the coaching staff happy? And I actually show up to these voluntary workouts. Oh, and by the way, get very valuable reps and be ready for my first year in the league. You know, you're basically weighing that right now. I don't think rookies should be involved in this at all. It's completely ridiculous. It doesn't concern them, and they're in an impossible spot to me with that decision that you have to make, because you're not going to please everybody, clearly. But think about it, if you're in your situation as a rookie, that first of all, think of everything they went through too just now, right? To even get to this point, you get drafted, you come into it, and the first thing you're being told, and it's not even just the ones that got drafted, it's the guys like for Oklahoma State, for instance, that signed these free agent contracts. They're in the same boat. It's like, now what do I do? Do I refuse and don't go to any of these? And probably that's going to stay in the mind of some of my coaches that, hey, remember we were going to give this guy a shot. Oh, but he didn't show up for the voluntary workouts. He didn't show up for the OTAs. He didn't put in effort. He just said he did, and we hope he did. Or am I going to come in, work my tail off, and eventually a player's going to be like, hey, man, you screwed us, or you didn't join us, so screw you. And it's like, really? That's where we're going to go? You're putting them in a really bad position. And I thought it was a great point, pointing out that they're the ones that are losing out on all this. You can have a battle between the players and the league, and that's all fine and dandy, and we're going to go hash it out and do whatever. But getting these guys in it, I think, is a really ridiculous move.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you'll see – I think there will be a cutoff point with drafted players. Like if you're looking at like third or fourth round players and beyond, especially the undrafted rookie free agents, like those guys need everything they can do to make a team. You know, to make that fall roster, you know, to make a 53-man or to make a practice squad or what have you. So I think you'll see fourth round and up, 4 through 7, and then the undrafted rookie. I think you'll probably see more of them do the voluntary workouts. Like, look, Dylan Stoner, Dylan Stoner's in Vegas right now. He's doing the rookie mini camps.
That's what I'm saying.
He's already out there.
Is he in a situation? I'm sure he was pressured and still is. Like, man, come on, Dylan, dude, don't do that.
Yeah.
We're trying to make a point here. And what's he going to say? No.
And that's the problem is you're gonna see those guys like, I have to do this.
Exactly.
Like, and it's it is unfair because you're gonna get guys like, you're gonna get your franchise receivers that are like, man, listen, I'm trying to get paid. I'm trying to get, 15 to 20 million extra on top of this contract, and you're making us look bad. Like, listen, man, I'm getting paid like $2,000. All right. Like, I got to eat. I gotta house my family. Cause there's a lot of these guys, they're 22, 23, 24 years old. They've got kids, they got a family they need to support. And their one goal is, okay, I know it's unrealistic to make a 53-man roster, but if I can make that practice squad, I can, what is it, $150,000, $200,000, something like that throughout the season. I need that money. Like, I have to show up to rookie. I got to show up to these OTAs. I got to show up to the voluntary workouts. I got to do this. Plus, if you look at that guy, was it the Denver? Was he the player for Denver?
Yeah.
He was like, I'm going to do some workouts on my own. Well, sorry, bud. You got hurt. We don't have to pay that contract because you didn't get hurt in facilities. So, it's super
A lot
unfair.
of players were upset about that, and
Super
I
unfair.
understand. And look, you look at the OTAs and the workouts, and I can understand it. If you're a team that's going 100% and you're hitting real hard and all this stuff, I mean, do you necessarily have to do that to be ready to go for the upcoming season? No. I mean, I don't think so, and I'm not sure how much of that they even do. If you listen to what Tom Brady was saying, for instance, in his speech, it seemed like that's all they do, which I don't know if I can completely buy that. I think they're safe with it, and I understand you want to be healthy and ready to go. But before the season gets here, the last thing you want to do is hurt yourself in a workout or a preseason game and not be able to play. So I do understand that. But coming at it and expecting everyone to just immediately join in, I think is irresponsible. It's not something that they can expect out of these rookies. And look, they proved, I think, too, and Levi, I'll see if you agree with this, too. Last year, like I talked about not doing the voluntary workouts and doing a lot of virtual stuff and then coming out and the offense was what it was like. I think it just kind of added more fuel to the fire for them.
Mm-hmm. And the main thing for the people, as I say, that are doing the workouts outside of where these teams are wanting to work out, it puts a lot more leverage for the teams if you, like you're saying, like we were talking about last year about doing all these virtual workouts, that if you aren't actually doing these and it's kind of like you're phoning it in, it gives more and more towards the teams. And also, it relating around Juwan James, what happened, how he got injured, and now he's not going to get all that money back from the Denver Broncos. That's the one thing when you sign, what was it, the new CBA, that's the thing that all the players gave the thumbs up for. That's kind of, you got to blame the rest of the league on that one. That's one of the, where everybody gave the okay. I assume not everybody, the majority gave the okay. That's the one that you got to look back on the players and say, we all made this decision. We all kind of screwed ourselves over.
Yeah, no, I mean, it happens like that a lot, in different leagues. They'll complain about things that happen, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, yeah, but we did vote for that.
It's congratulations, you played yourself.
Yeah, basically. It really is, yeah. And I hate to see it in the league, man. I really do. I understand that it's not always a pretty picture for these guys going back and forth, but I can understand both sides a little bit, believe it or not. The whole fact of seasoned veterans. I mean, do they have to be at OTAs and stuff like that? No, they don't. I mean, what are they going to do there anyways? Nothing that's going to improve anything that they do, most likely, that they couldn't do on their own. So I understand that part. But they're not taking into consideration anything that these rookies, first of all, had to go through to get to this point, and what they need to do. And you think back to their rookie years, back when they did go to these voluntary workouts and these OTAs, you think they wouldn't thank some of their progression to that? I mean, I would think they would. A lot, like we've talked about, a lot of what these players do in terms of their careers is built in those moments, and they get the thumbs up, and they catch the eye of some of their coaches and trainers. Like, man, this guy made a play here. He's taking really good reps here. That means later down the line, maybe we give him a chance, and he becomes someone who is a big name in the league. So there's a lot of importance in this stuff for young guys, and to think, look, it's crazy to believe that any of these older veterans take any of that in consideration. That's why I'm hoping that these rookies don't fall for that. Because I think it'd be really easy to, right? You get on teams with players that you know, and you're telling me that if Patrick Mahomes came up and was encouraging you, hey, man, look, we're not going to do these voluntary workouts. What are you going to do? Be like,
Imagine someone making $300 million on his contract, and he's like, hey, man, listen, all right, we can get more money. I need you to not show up, all right? And this guy's thinking, like, my only shot in this league is to show up and bust my ass. Like, I don't own a Major League Baseball team.
These guys are making, and I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes is doing that. You know what I'm saying. Just throwing him out there, example. But, you look at these guys that, in terms of, most of them, in terms of NFL money, are making very little.
Those,
and those guys, exactly, that too.
Exactly.
I mean, that's another thing.
That's why I think you'll see a lot of those late third rounders and into the 4 through 7, and then the undrafted rookie free agents. Like, they're trying. Like, I'm not guaranteed this money. I'm not guaranteed this spot. I have to be there.
Your starting wide receiver, quarterback, running back is pushing for this. Like, dude, I'm fighting for my life over here.
Yeah, I'm not trying to sell insurance.
Exactly. That's why you're most likely going to see like a story of like how when Chad Ochocinco like slept in the Bengals locker room. It wouldn't surprise me if Dylan Stoner's doing that right now. Like,
Dylan's camping out in the back of a Toyota in the parking lot.
Exactly.
Yeah,
John Gruden's not going to be able to kick me out if I live here now.
Man, that's a football guy right there.
Exactly.
Sleeping in the parking lot. I like that. Stoner, man.
Stoner,
I like you,
That's
Stoner.
dedication right there.
I'm going to call you the Stone Man.
Like that guy in the game.
Those guys aren't Patrick Mahomes. They aren't Aaron Rodgers. These aren't these guys that are in the headlines and have guaranteed spots. These are guys like Arkell. I'm fighting for my life out here. That's what they're doing. They're fighting for their love of football, and they have to. So even though the bigger guys are guaranteed their spots, these lower guys aren't. They aren't guaranteed big money at all. They could even, I guess you could say, flash out within the next couple of weeks and be out of football. So these guys are going to fight on the daily for these spots. And even though the big guys already got their spots claimed and they're wanting to fight for more, these other guys have gotten the short ends of the sticks and they're fighting to even just get a branch.
Yeah, and I've heard I've seen a lot of posts from being leaked from these guys' agents that are in the same boat as we are talking about how upset they are about this. Like, what are they supposed to do? Now I'm having to go out here and give them advice to go against what their teammates are now saying. We don't want to disrupt any locker room or anything like that, but you can't expect them to just say no to all this. That's crazy, man. So, yeah, they're in a unique spot, a tough spot, no doubt. Keep an eye on that story as it does continue to develop before the season. Coming up next on the Afternoon Sports Drive, we'll round things out. We'll tell you what we learned. Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, Levi Peckinpah. Yep, wherever Tom is, he just threw the radio, or he turned it off.
Nothing like a nice ELO song.
Yeah. He's not a fan.
I am.
I am too, man. That's what I put out there.
They're good.
Come on now.
Oh yeah.
Like I said last week, I gave my folks a computer back like in 2007. Basically gave them a virus. Trying to download
ELO.
Downloading from LimeWire.
Well, that's worth it.
Well, that's the thing, man. When you live, 15 miles outside of town and all you got's dial up, like
do what you gotta do.
Your folks probably aren't driving you 12 miles back into town to buy CDs, and this was before the day of Apple Music or Spotify or anything like that. So you either bought the CD or you downloaded through LimeWire.
Gotta do what you gotta do to survive.
But like,
man, that's all it was.
The sacrifice for ELO, though, like you could have done it for a lot of artists, but for ELO, come on,
they're good.
They're good, but they're not.
That's the thing, though. So like,
they're not destroy computer
ELO
good.
was huge back in the day, right? So what's the band that your father listened to that you were like, I love that band, but not many people like?
ELO was one of them.
Like now, they were huge back in the day, and so my dad liked ELO, so I liked ELO.
Exactly.
ELO's not that popular now, but you go back to the 80s, 70s, and 80s, huge.
So, big time. So our fathers had great music taste.
They had great music taste.
That's thank goodness for that, man. That's all I can say.
Imagine trashing someone for liking what their dad likes.
Unbelievable.
Pawnee punk.
Oh, Levi.
Hey, stop it. I'm not a Pawnee punk. I'm a Pawnee patriarch, okay?
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. There we go. That's a new one, too.
You're a father?
He's the ultimate father. He's a father of Pawnee. That's what he's saying. I think I put that together. We're live over here at Furniture Showcase, 5th and Main, downtown Stillwater. We're going to finish up the show by telling you what we learned.
The day is coming to an end. Time to find out if these two got any smarter. Let's find out what the guys learned today on the afternoon sports drive.
Well, I learned something today.
I learned that Tim Tebow is not finished. He refuses to leave
Isn't it great?
our lives and minds, which I'm okay with. I like Tim Tebow, but he's coming back to the National Football League.
So what you're telling me is that if you win the fantasy football over Levi next year, he's going to buy you a Tim Tebow Jacksonville jersey.
Man, you know how vintage that would be someday.
Oh man,
How cool would that be? He could take like one snap. It wouldn't even matter. Like that would be. I love Tim Tebow, man. I think obviously what he did from college and then at the next level for a little bit was extremely impressive. We all know he was a huge story for a very long time. He shows what he can do in terms of a media personality. Then he goes and plays minor league baseball for a while. And now he's expected to sign with the Jacksonville Jaguars on a one-year deal at tight end. We had talked about this when the rumor came out a couple weeks ago that this could potentially happen. I think you said, you're like, this is going to happen. Like, this is going to happen.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, I mean, I could see it. Just the fact of Urban Meyer, you got that connection there. They love what he's done. I'm actually legitimately curious what it would take for him to get back out there in a game. Because you have Trevor Lawrence now. You've got an offense that I think you're excited about. Tyler Eifert's your tight end, and he's been decent at times, even back when he was, I think it was Cincinnati is where he was. And last year they didn't use him. Part of it was because the quarterback situation was just plain awful in Jacksonville. But now you're really excited about a new head coach, new quarterback, an exciting offense with a bunch of young guys, and then you bring in someone like Tim Tebow. Where's he going to fit in? Is he ever going to see playing time? I would have to believe at some point he gets a chance, if anything, just for TV, right?
Yeah.
And it goes back. It goes back to what I've said from the beginning, before the draft even started, but we knew where Trevor Lawrence was going to go. That Jacksonville has come full circle from one of the least interesting teams last year in the entire league to one of the most interesting teams this season in the entire league because of all those things I just talked about. Then you add in Tim Tebow to the mix. Yeah, man, if anything, they got some new viewers for these games.
For better or worse, they are the most interesting team.
let me throw a number at you and see if maybe you can guess it.
Oh, boy.
An hour and 16 minutes. We're talking 76 minutes. You know what that is?
Some game time?
That's the distance between Gainesville to Jacksonville.
Oh, boy.
So I think it's safe to say that Tim Tebow is still athletic. You know, he's not broken down.
Yeah.
Now, easily living the dream. You win a national championship, you win a Heisman, you play in the NFL. Oh, it's not going to work out for me, so I'm going to go make millions of dollars as an ESPN analyst. You know what? I was a pretty decent baseball player. I think I'm going to go play, and he plays professional baseball.
And he's married to former Miss Universe.
Yeah. And now all of a sudden, he's getting another shot in the NFL. Now, you're not bringing him in to be your starting tight end. Like, if we're being realistic, he'll take snaps. You know, he'll get some balls thrown his way, maybe score a touchdown or two in garbage time towards the end. But you're not bringing him into play. You're bringing him in as a mentor. Look at what everything he's done in college, in the NFL, throughout life. Like, you're bringing him in as a mentor. And at worst, you got a backup quarterback. You got a guy that if old Trevor Lawrence goes down, throw him in.
Trevor Lawrence goes down. And then they're like, Gardner Minshew. No,
Tim Tebow.
We've already seen what Gardner Minshew can do. It's not good. So how about, Tim Tebow.
Think about how much money Jacksonville would make if they announced in that new, the 17th or 18th game or whatever it is, and you're playing, Detroit in the middle of November. Oh, by the way, Trevor, you're going to sit. We're starting Tim Tebow. The game's on Sunday. We're going to announce it Monday. We're going to sell out in 5 minutes, and we're going to sell thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of jerseys. That's a money grab right there.
Wow.
The Tebow thing is still very weird. It shows that Urban Meyer is still going to favor a lot of various guys if they've got connections with him. I think that's partially why you drafted Travis Etienne so high. I can understand there's a connection between him and Trevor Lawrence. So I think this might be a team that values a lot of connections with certain guys. We're starting to see that connections are starting to be a little bit more valid in the NFL if you got a certain connection to make another guy pretty happen. I think this might just be a personality pick for Urban Meyer to mesh with Tim Tebow because it just seems like those guys mesh too well. And plus that means Bible study will be happening every other day, so that'll be probably a good thing for Tim Tebow, and you can have that over there in Jacksonville and bring in a new culture in Jacksonville. But I'm just, for a tight end being a mentor, to who? That's my thing. It's
just locker room.
I was gonna say being a locker room presence
he's
guy.
a great personality. He has a ton of experience across the board. You're not bringing him into play.
No.
You'll play him that you don't even need to pay him.
Yeah,
you know?
no, you're not talking about like position specific.
no.
You're
Not
just
at all.
a guy that's been
No.
around,
Just
seen
in
it, done
general.
it. Yeah.
Just a locker room.
You could have just brought him in as an assistant coach. That would have worked out better.
Yeah,
All they're doing is bringing him in for halftime speeches.
well, you know what? He brings the experience of winning a playoff game,
Yeah.
and that's something that probably nobody on that team
I'm
can
telling
say
you.
that they've done.
I'm
So.
telling you. So I learned today that Bob Baffert, legendary horse trainer, is a bit of a stooge. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Fair.
I'm just gonna throw that out there. He had his 5th horse in the last year test positive for a banned substance. That would be looks like betamethasone. I don't know. But it's banned across the board. But however, it is legal under Kentucky racing rules, though it has to be cleared 14 days before a horse race. Come to find out that Kentucky Derby winner Medina Spirit tested positive for this. Baffert announced it yesterday, and then you had my goodness, the racetrack, Kentucky Derby racetrack. What's the name of that?
Churchill Downs.
Churchill Downs. My goodness, you had them come out yesterday, ban him from the facilities indefinitely, which I think is more of a let's see how this plays out. But it's a little suspicious that you have all these horses that are testing positive, right? So we could be seeing they're going to review the results again and see if it comes back positive. He's upset about it, and then he goes on Fox News and he's blaming cancel culture. That's what he's doing. It's a horse, Bob. It's a horse. It says racing has a problem. Bob Baffert is not the problem. Like, well, I haven't heard anything officially. They haven't told me anything. I know when Churchill Downs came out with that statement, that was pretty harsh, and that was about the ban. And I think they had to just, with all the noise going on, we live in a different world now. This America is different. And it was like a cancel culture kind of thing. Nah, dude, you got caught cheating. It ain't cancel culture. I don't think you know what that means. You cheated. And then he came out a few hours later and said that one of the groomers had been taking cough syrup and went to the bathroom in the horse stall, and it happened to get on the hay, and the horse ate the hay, and so he tested positive because it was urinated on the hay. Like,
Wow.
my God, Bob.
Nice. Just admit it, dude.
What a stooge.
Hey, man.
You got
Goodness.
caught. It's not cancel
It's
culture.
hilarious.
You cheated.
I saw that I got an update from Bleacher Report that said all it said was like drama at Churchill Downs. Like, I'll be
Ain't no
honest, I'll be
drama.
transparent. I don't watch horse racing. I don't really know. I was like, what could possibly be going down before the race? And then I read it and I was like, oh man, are you serious?
And now he's trying to play the victim. Like, he's not going to the Preakness in Baltimore. He was like, I go to Baltimore to have a good time. It's a fun trip. I don't want to take away from the horses. I think it'd be a distraction if I went. Yeah, it'd be a distraction because you're a cheater.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, cancel culture is rampant and it is a disease, plain and simple. But I don't know. I'm not sure how that would fall into it.
It ain't because you cheat. You're not. They're not canceling you because you cheated.
I think you're just
You're getting
just a
punished.
cheater.
You're getting punished because you've had 5 horses in the last year test positive for banned substances.
Pretty significant. This is a significant number.
And then he comes out and he talks about how unfair. He said, I thought I had a pretty good relationship with him with all the stuff I've done with my Triple Crown runners. I'm the face of the sport, and I'm trying to promote my sport. That's a pretty low blow what they did yesterday. I wish they would have called me. They did. They called you out. Said you're banned, Bob. You cheat.
Oh, man.
You gone.
Get him.
Drama at Churchill Downs. Wow.
Something I never thought I'd read.
Same.
Or would be this big of a deal.
Right. I was very shocked. Yep. I was very
crazy.
shocked. The most attention the Kentucky Derby's had in a while, I'm sure. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Thank you to Furniture Showcase. Again, come check them out, 5th and Main, downtown Stillwater, 388-7171, StillwaterFurnitureShowcase.com. That's Levi Peckinpah.
Yeah.
That's Zach Lancaster. I'm Patrick Wheeler. We'll be back here tomorrow at 3 o'clock, right back at it on the Afternoon Sports Drive. See you then.